Hello guys. So as I promised, this and next few episodes will cover essential game features. Particularly this one is interaction system, and I already have one on my channel, but it's nearly 2 hours long, so I found that a lot of people struggle to follow up such long tutorials. That's why I've decided to make in-depth explanation on my system and share my code free, so you can easily download it and drag and drop to your project. With few actions taken, integration is done less than 1 minute. So let's start. So, as you can see, right now I'm the template first-person shooter and it doesn't have anything. To make my system work, first of all we need to extract the data from the archive and put it under the content folder without changing any naming. So I've already done this. Copy paste back to our project. And right now you can see we have interaction system folder here. Next thing is to change few elements in our project settings. Under collision, we need to add new object channel. Interactable. In the rendering, under the post-processing, we can see custom depth stencil path. We should change it to enabled with stencil. Now, let's open up our default pawn and add interaction component. So, as you can see, I have the demo folder in my interaction system, and this one can be used to check whether all elements are installed correctly. Simply drag and drop it. I forgot one thing. Because we add custom channel, we need to refresh few nodes. We need to open up Interactable base and interaction component. In the base, we need to change set collision object type to interactable. In interaction component, line trace for object, also interactable. Now back to our scene. Here you can see that my chatterbox amigo, its placeholder, has interaction type to set press. Let's change it to hold and launch our game. Now, as you can see, system works fine. So, from this point, let's talk about how it works and how we can make other interactable. So guys, as you can see, I'm back to the Advanced Locomotion System project, and the reason is quite obvious. I wanted to show that my system works not only with the simple templates, but with heavy one. And back to theory. So, my system is based on using 3 core elements: interactable base, interaction component, and interaction widget. All communication is done by using interface and messages. And the logic is done in the way that I use only abstract classes. So that's why I don't really care about player pawn, player controller, camera, or storing hard references, or even casting. So I also have those materials. It's sort of visual sugar to show the feedback when we are interacting with an object. radial button and radial progress bar are for user interface, and post-process selection for outlining our object. I won't be covering it, but you can find tutorial on those elements on my channel also. Interesting here is that I use custom stencil, and that's the reason why I changed project settings. All elements that have stencil of 1 will be under this post-process. Now let's talk about Interactable base. So, Interactable base. It's the master blueprint which contains all the logic of interactable object. That means that all interactable objects that we create should be derived from this class. By default, it only has widget components and we don't have any model. We can have complex blueprint which can contain up to 10 static or skeletal meshes. And I don't want all of them to be used in the post-process or with the particular collision type. So that's why this function checks on the first element whether it's static or skeletal mesh with the proper tag. If you don't have this tag, all interaction won't work. So take a look at the demo content. It's our chatterbox Amigo. We have skeletal mesh and tag interaction. So one more time, when you create interactable object, please select the proper skeletal or static mesh and add this tag. So then interactable system will work. As I was saying earlier, our core elements all implement interaction system interface. This one. Can interact, start or stop interaction, update interactable and reset interaction are for blueprint. Update hold time and update interaction type are for user interface. So, once we have our interface implemented, you can see that we have events that came from our interface. Interaction is quite simple. Once we are out of sight of our interactable, we won't be seeing our widget. Once we are in the line of sight, we should set our visibility for widget to true, and this also comes for our custom stencil, for our post-process to be used. So 1 for using outline and 0 for switching it off. The same for widget here. One more interesting stuff here is this one, this switch. As you can see, I have enumeration which is called interaction type. By default, it stores two values, hold and press. I don't have any hard-coded input events. I have timer. This one. Let me show you. Listen to key input. It's stored under the interaction component, which checks whether the proper key input, we define it here, is pressed. So all interaction is done by checking whether our key is being held or it was pressed. And depending on the time that it consumes our input, we select whether it's hold or press event. So, also, nice little trick about this logic is, if you take a closer look, depending on the switch of this enumeration, if it's hold, we are actually setting our value as it is. But if it's pressed, it doesn't really care about what we will be setting under this value from the viewport. So as you can see, we have eyes on our interaction type and our interaction time. That means that if we select interactable object inside our viewport, here you can see that we can change those values. So if it's hold, it will be hold event. It will consume all of our input time. And if it's pressed, it doesn't really care how long we are holding our key. It will always work as if it's pressed. Nice little trick. Yeah. Also, depending on this logic, as you can see, we have the message update interaction type to our widget. It changes the overall look of our visual feedback. Also, how the logic is computed inside our widget. This switch and this switch. So let me show you. If we have press, and as you can see, interaction type is set to be 2 seconds. I'm launching the game. I press, I press, I press. Visual feedback, we have the radial button. If we change it to be hold, we launch the game. Other visual feedback. Here. Here. So it works perfectly fine. Now let's talk about interaction component. Interesting here are a few things. The first one is that I don't actually use camera for applying post-process. So once when begin play fires, I add to the root component of my player pawn dynamically creates post-process. Here is my material and here how I apply it. Set weight to 1, and when the event and play fires, I need to switch it off, so I set weight to be 0. Other interesting here is the line trace for object. Here I use player camera manager, so I don't really care about the camera, the active camera. The only thing that you need to worry about is about the rotation modes of your camera. So for the first person shooter, this works fine. For the third person character, you need to make some adjustments. The length of the line trace is defined here. Logic is pretty much simple. Briefly, let me just show you how it works. So I create an instances of these guys and I'm launch the game. They all are same blueprint but different instances. That means that when I start interacting with them, they should be executing their logic separately. So as you can see, I don't have any artifacts or lag. Their selection changes smoothly. As you can see, now they behave differently. So everything works fine. So now how it works. On hit result, I get hit actor and I check whether I have the last interactable valid. If I have, it means that I start interacting with my old one. If it's true, I need to call can interact and clear other events. If it's new actor, I need to stop interacting with the previous one, delete it and clear other events also. And if it's not valid, it means that it's on new actor. I need to start interacting with it and clear those two events. The last thing here is listen to key input. As I said earlier, I don't have a hard-coded event, so I can simply change key input here from for instance, E key 2, let it be num1, and I actually made some few changes inside Interactable base and my widget for changing up the key input visual representation of the widget. It means that once I start overlapping with my line trace with the interactable object, the key required for being pressed will be updated. Now, as you can see, it's num1, and it's only place where I should change it, interaction component. Once I launch the game, you can see now it's num1. I press it, everything works fine. So yep, that's it for interaction component. So last thing of this in-depth tutorial slash explanation on how to use this feature is actually to create the interactable object. So let's select our master widget, master blueprint, sorry guys, and create the child BP barrel. Open it up. Let's add static mesh component. For tag, go to interaction. Now let's assign the model and let's change the pivots of our widget. What else? Initial values of our class. Don't forget to change interaction type to be hold or press. Let's say this will be press. And on the event graph here we need to call for the main body event. This one is actually executed inside our base class here. So once we call it in child, it will override it, and after this pin all the logic will be yours. All other logic here is already executed because it's the parent of our child. Let's say set simulates physics on static mesh. Once we execute it, set to be true. I guess that's it. Now let's add it to our scene and see whether it works. Hold, press, hold, press, press, yep, hold, it works. So that's it. That's how you should work with this feature. I hope you like it. So guys, please subscribe if you like my videos, leave your feedback, hit the like button, and if you want to support me, I have Patreon, and if you want to support my country at this hard moment, you can follow up the link to the Ukrainian Red Cross to leave your donation there. See you soon.